What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World. It's our Wednesday night edition, which means it's Trish time. We've got a very Trishly topic tonight. What makes sex sacred? And we're going to, of course, hear from Trish. And we also have, in addition to Trish, real quickly, just want to let people know that we've got Shashi Saluna back with us. And one of my dearest friends in the world, Lori Grace, who's been teaching Tantra and sacred sexuality for decades, literally. And of course, we have our beloved brother, Omashar, with us. So it's going to be a really dynamic conversation. We want to hear from all of you. And I want to invite all of you who are watching on the different Facebook groups and pages to join us. You know, we go out to over 175 Facebook groups and pages through the Sign Network. Thank you, John and Summer Raymer. And we also are on Humanities Team, Conscious Awakening Network, and of course, YouTube. Now, if you're watching us any of those ways, that's great. It's wonderful. But come join us. Come join the Global Peace Tribe. And it's really easy to do that. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com. globalpeacetribe.com. You can learn all about the different shows that we do, and then click where it says register for the new season. And that'll take you to our registration page. Here we go. One of these moments will do that for me. It's just so quick. Here we go. Come on. There we go. We do 3 or 4 shows every week. In fact, we've got a special show tomorrow afternoon that we're doing, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But we have all these wonderful hosts and guests and topics, such as tonight's show, What Makes Sex Sacred? And then this Saturday night, we have a beautiful show planned all about honoring and understanding our angelic forces. And we've got an amazing group of people lined up for that show. And then on Sunday, our Secret Sunday show this week, it's going to be all about mentorship of next generation multicultural leaders. We've got people tuning in who are originally from Pakistan, India, Nepal, Bolivia, really expanding out, which I'm excited about. So join us. It's really easy. When you join, you're going to get the links to all of our shows for the next 3 months. Plus, you'll also be on our email list, which means you'll be able to get all the announcements. And we always send out the links to our previous shows, which then will end up on our YouTube channel. So join us. The best reason to join, though, is because then you're in the Zoom room and you can chat with all of us. And we put a lot of links and information into the chat box. And that's where we can also take your questions for tonight's show or for any of the shows that we do. So join us. Now, one of the things about the Global Peace Tribe is we always include music with amazing topics and fun topics. And our house musical artist, Omashar, my co-pilot, is here with us with love in the background. I'm guessing that's the answer to your question, or the question, what makes sex sacred? Yeah?
It is exactly that. You asked me and then you took the words right out of my mouth. It must have been, right? So are we ready?
We are. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
And Eleanor Joy is here, so I look forward to people moving and dancing to the music.
Okay. Dearly beloved, he sits alone, waiting for suggestions. She's so nervous, avoiding all the questions. Her lips are dry, his heart is gently pounding. Don't you just know exactly what they're thinking? Wow. They wake at dawn, 'cause all the birds are singing. Two total strangers, but that ain't what they're thinking. Outside it's cold, it's misty and it's raining. They've got each other, and neither one's complaining. She says, I'm sorry, but I'm out of milk and coffee. Never mind sugar, we can watch the early movie. Because if you want my body, and you think I'm sexy, come on sugar, let me know. If you really need me, just reach out and touch me. Come on, honey, tell me so. The awakening world is rising. The awakening world is rising in our hearts.
That was fun. And I love how you bring in the Awakening World theme song at the end there. You got the fireworks are going off, the psychedelia is going off. My God, great start to the show.
Well, the theme was when we were compiling the show, when you were compiling the show last time, in your private little note to Trish and I, he said, I wonder what music he's going to pick. And I thought, aha, let's think.
You did great. Absolutely fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. We all love Let's All Twinkle. Omashar.
Twinkle,
Twinkle
twinkle, star.
All right. Well, great show. Thank you so much. All right. So the theme and the topic that he has gotten us off to the great show, great start, if I could learn how to talk. You got me so revved up there. What makes sex sacred? And we're going to go to my wonderful co-host, the beautiful Trish Wright, to answer the question, and then we'll hear from Shashi and Lori.
I love that you set this show up, Scott. And I don't have a lot, like sometimes I have a lot of say in how these shows set up, and then sometimes I don't. But this one is incredibly timely. because what you don't know is that I'm setting up a Tantra and kink collaboration retreat with Ashley and Cantata
Oh, wow.
in August.
In Mexico?
Either in Mexico or I'm pushing for New Orleans.
Oh,
I have like a whole, we should talk. I'm just really appreciating the southern states right now, not because of their politics, just because of there's so much history there.
mhm.
And there's a different sort of style of mindset that's really intriguing to me. And whenever I see them, they're always like, tell me more about that. And I'm like, oh, interesting. You're engaged. Anyway, what you don't know is that we had a big debate, like last week, Ashley and I, about what is sacred and what is sacred sex. And she was like, with me. And I was like, oh no. So today I'm just going to bring to you what my kind of crunchy moment is with the word sacred. I believe that everything is sacred.
Mhm.
And I've often thought for a while that this idea that if I put my intention or my slowness, that it makes something sacred. Like I actually participated in this belief for a long time. And it occurred to me, I was like, wow, I am being so arrogant to think that my intention is make something sacred. It is sacred. Like everything is sacred, the moment in this. So even the craziest vile things have elements of what is sacred to be alive. Now, there's delight and then there's bliss. And there's a way of slowing down the blissful moments to really deepen the connection, to make it feel like a heightened state of awareness where it feels like it's somewhat more sacred. But you're like, it's like spreading, like stretching out the moments of time where even just like a millisecond feels like magic. That can be pretty magical and sacred and sweet, right? So that's my sassy start of the show. Sorry.
I like it. I like it. And you know what it brings up for me is, the whole idea that everything is divine, that it's all God experiencing itself. And God meaning life, meaning existence, meaning the quantum field, whatever you want to call it. So thank you. Well, we'll be hearing much more from Trish, but I'm eager to hear what Shashi and Lori have to say. And welcome back to the show, Shashi Saluna. We so loved having you on just last month. It was like, we got to have her back on again soon where we can have more time with her. And for anybody who doesn't know, she is an international Tantra facilitator. She's been doing this for 20 years. Started when she was 19. She trained as an Osho therapist with Mantak Chia, who's been on this show, of course, and is all about classical Tantra. And she also studied Tantric body work. She runs a month-long teacher training at TaoTantricArts.com. We'll be learning more about that. And she's currently teaching trauma awareness to Tantra professionals, as well as running a teacher training program. And she's in Nicaragua right now, where she's running a program. So thank you for taking time out after teaching for 10 hours today to be on the Awakening World tonight. Welcome, Shashi.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, I love to join in conversations like this. So it was so beautiful to meet all of your tribe last time. So yeah, I love this topic as well of like what makes sex sacred. And of course, like there's so true that everything is divine and made of the same oneness. And yet there's also something that like I noticed that sexuality for me when I was like a teenager and a student was just kind of a bit of a non-event, and I didn't really touch me that much. I actually didn't like sex that much when I first got into it. It was just kind of a non-event, and I wondered why the world was so into it. And I became actually a celibate Buddhist when I was 18. Luckily, I was saved by the Osho ashram, and there I began to discover creating space for everyday experiences, which is what I feel Tantra is. It's not actually just about sex. Like when you read Vigyang Bhairav Tantra, which Osho turned into the Book of Secrets, you find out that anything can be a tantric experience, but that in a kind of mundane way, we don't pay much attention. So like eating food, for example. And there's a Vigyang Bhairav Tantra that says, while eating food or drink, become the taste of the food or drink. So we have that classical tantra practice where you're maybe blindfolded and tasting a strawberry and becoming the taste of the strawberry. And it's so different from just like shoving in a load of strawberries. Well, I find it's the same with sex. You know, we can be kind of grasping, trying to fill an empty hole, just kind of, we can go through all kinds of intimacy without even tasting it along the way, and it can leave us feeling empty. And you know, I know from working with a lot of younger people that there, you know, there's a kind of openness and a big dating scene, and casual sex has become very easy to grasp with our Tinder world, but that people are feeling even more and more dissatisfied. And I really feel that the difference is the space that we create. Now, whether sacred to us is kind of like lighting candles and having mantras and really making it feel like a spiritual experience, or whether it's just like I'm turning off my phone, I'm closing the door, and I'm showing up to meet you fully, those both make a more meaningful experience out of something that we might just kind of rush through or just not be present for. So I remember my first tantric date in Pune with this lovely Israeli man, where just stepping into his bedroom was like my whole body shifting and dropping in because of all the candles, the intention, the attention that he'd given to it, and just feeling deeply, deeply seen. I felt so vulnerable, and that opened me up so much. And I realized we didn't even have sex on that tantric date. We just had dinner and talking, and my body was starting to move energy and like crack open. I felt more orgasmic with him than I had with all the people I'd had physical sex with before then. And I realized, wow, this is how sex can be an amazing experience. It's about the quality that we can bring to it. So and then later when I got into Tantra, I heard the definition is about worshiping the divine feminine. And I thought, is that just about worshiping a statue of a woman? And then I realized, wow, no, Shakti is our breath, it's our life force, it's our orgasm, it's our sexual energy. And when we come with an attitude of awe and wonder to that energy, it awakens. So the Kundalini work that I'm doing with my students here is very much about the way we see each other. And with that seeing of awe and wonder of life force energy, our bodies just become orgasmic, even with our clothes on. So that's where my journey has really led me, is into the space we create and honoring life force energy, whether it's our breath, whether it's our orgasm, whether it's our emotions, honoring it as this sacred and manifestation of divinity.
Beautiful. I love you. You're so expressive. And the enthusiasm that you have is fantastic. We're going to hear a lot more from Shashi, but I want to bring up one of my dearest friends. This is Lori Grace, coming from Tiburon, California, which is where I also am. She's just right next door. And Lori has been teaching Tantra and sacred sexuality for decades, including just last week. She had a wonderful class that was life-changing for people. So Lori, what makes sex sacred from your point of view?
There are a number of different things, but one of the things that hasn't been mentioned as fully as I would like to hear is the importance of compassionate communication, about truly hearing someone, how to make requests of somebody sexually, how to be able to hear someone's no to a request, really being able to empathically connect with people. Also, how to communicate in ways that don't disturb the developing mood or trance of sexual arousal. So that's one thing. Another thing is, and I was just doing it, is working with the chakras and really understanding that these are energy centers in our body, and whatever spiritual group we're a part of, that we can really create a weaving within all the chakras of our body and the weaving within another's, and create that. And Tantra originally comes from the Sanskrit word tandara, meaning to weave. And it's talking about weaving with another, weaving with a beloved, weaving with community, and ultimately weaving with all of God, or all spirit. So I noticed that in my little beginning workshop, that just focusing on breathing and being together with the chakras, with the people who didn't even know each other, created so much instant intimacy. They were talking too, but it was amazing. And so in the workshop happening shortly on Friday, we're also going to begin integrating compassionate communication into how to relate intimately and to create greater ease in sexual connection.
And so what Lori is
few of the
referencing,
things.
what Lori is referencing is, for those of you in the San Francisco Bay Area, Lori is teaching a class. I'm going to be supporting her with it this Friday at the Sunrise Center. That's in Corte Madera, right off Highway 101. And we'll definitely do a little bit more announcements about that. I'm going to bring Trish and Shashi back on, because right off the bat, we have a question, which is, can people experience sacred sex by themselves? Can people? Notice how all three right away said yes, smiles. So I'd love to hear from each of you. Any tips or thoughts about that question?
Well, okay. Well, whatever. You could go first.
I just immediately thought of my first experience. Well, I was really initiated by a man and we had amazing lovemaking, but then I was like, I don't know what he's doing that's making this so special. So I went and trained with Mantak Chia. And then I rented a little hut in the mountains. I made an altar. I put candles. I put a picture of a goddess, and I sat naked in front of the altar. I got my oil, started my breast massage, and I started to move the sexual energy the way I'd learned, which was like an offering to the altar, an offering to my higher self, an offering to the well-being of all living beings, consecrated. And as I began moving the sexual energy through my microcosmic orbit up my spine, and that one evening of, I couldn't call it self-pleasure, because it was really an offering of sexual energy to the highest potential. It was deeper than that. It was really a ritual with my sexual energy. And that experience, in one night, I healed a whole childhood that told me I had to choose between spirituality and sexuality. I couldn't have them both. Where I grew up, it was one or the other. And in that one experience, I felt like, wow, there's nothing more sacred and more innocent and more beautiful than this energy. And that was just fully alone, sitting at my altar, using my body, my breathing, my practices. So absolutely, it can be totally sacred on your own.
Beautiful. Thank you. Lori, what would you like to share? And then we'll hear from Trish.
When I was 25 years old and I was training with Sannyasin, who is also a Tantra teacher and a Reichian therapist, we also learned to move energy through all parts of our body, through all chakras. And I was just by myself, and I wasn't, well, no, she was to the side. I wasn't touching myself sexually. I was just breathing, undulating, bringing the energy up. And I ended up having an orgasm just by breathing alone. And I felt filled with light. I felt as though a man perhaps was penetrating me from the base of my pelvis up through all of my chakras over and over again. I felt a deep sense of self-love and melting in that love. And then, it was totally amazing for me. And then I tried to make it happen for quite a while afterwards. And when I forgot about it, it happened again.
Wow.
Because these things have to do with letting go. You can't demand a cosmic orgasm, you have to melt into it.
Wow. Well, that's a beautiful story. Thank you.
Good.
And Trish, what would you like to share?
Okay. I'm like, oh shoot. Am I really? Sometimes I'm just like, I answer, and then you run a rerun, Scott, and I watch it and I'm like, You know, in my early days, I had a very similar experience to Shashi. And at some point I was like, there's gotta be a way to bring spirituality into my sex life, to bring God into my sex life. And I was pretty young, like, I mean, pretty young on the sense of like how I was evolved as a person and as a spiritual being, growing up in Montana, kind of knowing just this sort of like country-ish mindset. And I, at this moment, one of my best friends said, I think you're a tantrika. And I was like, I had no idea. I was like, sure. Like, whatever you say, lady. She's like, I kind of think that that's like where you're supposed to be. And I was like, okay. It took me a little while. I became a raw food vegan and started going to the Cafe Gratitude. I know I'm just telling you a story here. The Cafe Gratitude. And I found a couple who taught me Tantra and who started to teach me the practices of sort of this Western neo-Tantra. And it was really profound for me. It blew my mind. And I started to recognize how intentional slowing down of something, of movement, of the presence of my own sexuality could really benefit me. So one of the practices that I do teach my clients now, well, I'll finish the story first, but I ended up eventually going to learn at a Tantra school, which I think we discussed this, Shashi, last time. I went to a really like wild Tantra school where I was like, I worked there for a hot second and was like, this is weird. It's just not weird. This is not right. Like there's something about it that's not right here. It just didn't, like it wasn't in there's something about it that wasn't in my integrity. I mean, it took me years to understand what that was, is that it didn't have the foundational practices of Tantra. It didn't really, it had some of this new age conversation, but it really wasn't founded in the protection of the spirit and the psyche. Mm. Anyway, so I taught for a while. And I picked up a couple like really embodied tools. And one of the tools that I want to share with you is to slow it down. To whenever you feel like to the desire to reach orgasm, we'll say, or the desire to go somewhere in your sexuality, to actually stop, take a deep breath, lean back into your body and see if you can really focus on the sensation wherever your touch is, and try to not just touch the hot spots, but to really take a deep breath and breathe into the eroticism of just even this. Because if you don't know where your pleasure is, then how do you tell someone that?
Beautiful. Thank you, Trish. I love all these answers. I want to offer a thought, as many of you, most people in the Zoom room are regulars, and of course I do the Sacred Sunday show, and I always close it by saying that we can make any moment sacred by seeing the divine in each other and ourselves. And that to me is what makes sex sacred, is when we're choosing to use that beautiful, amazing experience of the most profound form of connection that two people can have together, or a person can have with themselves, as we just heard, and really bringing the divine into it, seeing ourself as divine, seeing the other as divine, and really making a prayer out of it. For me, I've always enjoyed combining sexual experience with prayer. That's always been something that's been very meaningful to me and has led to really many of my favorite moments in life. So that's a little piece that I'll add. I'm going to bring on our other people again, because we've got a couple of other questions. And I also want to acknowledge that it's Beltane time. On Monday is May 1st, Beltane. Our good friend Eden Amadora did a beautiful event that I know several of our people, including myself, attended online. And George wrote a little bit about Beltane, which I'll read. But then maybe some of you might want to share about this particular time of year. Or actually, I'm sorry, it was Reverend Jeffrey that wrote. We love you, Jeffrey. Thank you. He writes, Beltane is here, and we welcome the time of fertility. We greet this season of fire, love, and passion with open arms and loving hearts. We come together to create life, to honor the divine union between masculine and feminine, from which all life flows. As the earth grows and creates life, we shall grow and create life. Amen, aho, and so it is. So what does Beltane, or this particular time of year, mean to any of you? Would any of you like to comment on that?
Well, being British, I grew up with a lot of Beltane. It's a big part of my heritage, and I spent a lot of time in Glastonbury in the UK, or Avalon. And this is the land where the sacred priestesses used to live in, and still do, in the UK. So it's really, really alive in my motherland, in my lineage, in my history. Even as a child, we had May Day celebrations. More recent years, I've been part of many beautiful pagan ceremonies, and I really find it to be the Western version of Tantra, the hieros gamos, the union of masculine and feminine. And of course, traditionally there was more with men and women, but now it's more about masculine, feminine energies. And that's both inwardly and outwardly. I've been part of amazing gatherings where the men and the women, or those in the masculine, feminine energy, split apart, do rituals separately, and then come together with masks and fires. And there's this kind of animal nature that we feel free to bring out. I mean, traditionally, Beltane was a night when you could let go of responsibilities and being a husband and a wife and just run free. And I think that's, I think that's very beautiful that our cultures saw, okay, sometimes we need responsibility and we're a husband and a wife or a mother, father, whatever, but that we also have this need to just be like wild animals and follow our animal instinct. And I really love that the pagan system kind of put in a time, a festival, when we could just do that. And I think these days Tantra workshops often have that space where it's like, come to this space, let out parts of yourself that otherwise you don't have in your normal life. You might have shame about them. You might not just let them run free, but have a space to be a wild sexual animal in a safe held way with boundaries, consent, and all of these things. So that part of you can be integrated into the whole of who you are. Because I feel also, as a British person, we become very civilized, and we're terribly civilized, and then we repress that animal nature. We have that too. But I'm proud of us for having Beltane, and yeah, I'm happy to see it mentioned here.
Beautiful description. And George is pointing out something important, which is that Beltane is halfway to the solstice. It's halfway between the spring equinox and the solstice time, June 20th. So
Yeah, it's called a cross.
Lori or Trish, anything you want to add to just the spirit of Beltane, or the spirit of wild abandon, which Shashi so beautifully described? Trish is smiling. Anything you want to add to that?
I'm not sure if I should share any of that.
Oh, now, come on, you were talking about New Orleans. You're wanting to do something in New Orleans. New Orleans is probably, of all the cities I can think of in this country, the most likely to celebrate that kind of energy with Carnival, of course. Yeah.
Well, I'm feeling particularly springish. I had a partner a while ago. I'll give you the PG-13. Not the things that I was really thinking. You'll have to call me for that. I had a partner a long time ago that we would go through the cycles of the season, in the deep, dark, wintry moments where we would start to go inward and our sexuality would start to go inward. And, during the spring, I don't know if anyone else feels it, but it's like spring. Hey, you're looking like a buzzy, sweet flower blossoming, and hi. I know, right? I'm just silly today. I never celebrated Beltane until I got to California, and I mean, just with the people here. Scott, you said something about Oh, I wrote it to you. I texted it to you. So there's this thing that I'm tracking the hot words of this conversation, and what I'm finding, there's a couple things that I'm finding. I'm just going to read out what sacred is. Is this okay? Like so far, what we've got in this show: the attention, intention, presence, communication, compassion, empathy, and intimacy, seeing the divine in the other, and primal animal nature. And because I'm specifically I'm a kinky sex coach. Like I'm tantra informed, we'll call it, like very briefly, but I'm really rooted in kink. And I'm like, oh, this is all the foundations of kink as well, in the way that I teach it. And the question that I had for everyone is, what's the difference between the prayer of sexual embodiment and doing sex magic? Is there a difference? Is it the same?
Well, let's go to Lori, because we haven't heard from her for a little bit. So Lori, what's your response to Trisha's question?
The question that you're asking, is there a difference between sex magic and feeling this blending in yourself? Is that okay? Could you rephrase your question?
Is there a difference between sort of tantric prayer lovemaking and sex magic?
Well, actually, I do find a difference, but also a blending. And that is that in pagan Europe, the idea of creating sexual energy and connection with another as a state of being, a state of empowerment, also can be done independently, just as one person. There was a tendency to not just push towards orgasm, but to delay that and create a state of heightened awareness and sexual arousal for a longer period of time, and then use that heightened state of being to visualize what they wish to manifest, either individually or as a couple. And I actually was involved in measuring brainwaves of people practicing a certain amount of tantric breathing and sex magic in 1996. And we were checking regular meditators, and then when pleasured by their partners, undulating, breathing up, and really beginning to visualize connection either with themselves or with each other, their brainwaves were so heightened, we had to change the settings on the biofeedback machines to even capture them in the alpha and theta amplitude.
That's pretty
ranges in
incredible.
the brain. Yeah, it has to do with shifting, looking at sex from a point of view of orgasm, where orgasm ceases to become an event, but becomes a state of being. And a lot of it is by, among other things, slowing down, stretching it out, as both of you have said. And it's also it has a long history of manifestation in all pagan Europe for many years. So, but we create our own Americanized versions. And I have done that for many, many years and taught it.
Thank you for that. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yeah. Shashi, what are your thoughts?
Between sex magic and prayer, I agree that there's overlap, but sex magic is a very specific ritual, right? Where we're setting intention and then sublimating sexual energy towards that manifestation. Whereas we can pray during lovemaking, like you said. I love that, Scott. One of the things I love music. It's my favorite language, and I love mantra. And I've really enjoyed lovemaking with mantra, just to create an energy field. And that's not about manifesting a particular intention like sex magic. It's more about creating a particular frequency and resonance in which to experience ourselves. So I've really enjoyed bringing bringing those kind of experiences, and that can be prayerful,
Mhm.
but not necessarily sex magic. But I think sex magic is a very specific form of working with sexual energy.
Yeah.
To bring that up here.
That was always, sex magic was always something that I really enjoyed playing with, working with, and teaching. And when my wife was still alive, we did a lot of sex magic. And I'll just tell one story. At the time, I had a dog, Krishna, and he was a Bichon, similar to Jasmine Bear. And he always wanted to be kind of a solo dog. A couple times I kind of checked in, are you ready for a friend? He was not ready for a friend. But then when Suchi and I finally moved in together and we're preparing to get married, she really was kind of feeling like, she wanted to have a dog. And we checked it with Krishna, and he was like ready to have a buddy. And so she and I did sex magic. And we knew exactly what we wanted. We wanted to attract another little white dog that would be a great buddy for Krishna. And we did a whole thing around it. And I won't go into the details of how we did it, but it was beautiful and it was powerful. And about 5 or 6 weeks later, I was walking Krishna, and out of the bushes pops this little white, not quite a puppy. He was about 5 months old, not fully grown, not puppy, no collar, literally out of the blue showed up, and became our dog. We named him Boobily. Suchi named him because she was from Germany, and which is a little girl. There was a German cartoon show about a crazy little dog called Boobily, and I ended up having Boobily for 12 years. In fact, he passed away just about a year ago in the room that I'm in right now. And so it was magic. It was just pure magic how he popped up and was the perfect dog, perfect companion for Suchi, perfect companion for Krishna, and one of my dearest friends for 12 years. Of course, Lori and Trish knew Boobily well.
Yes.
So, yeah. So sex magic is an amazing and a beautiful thing. And definitely
Could I
something.
speak into this comment here that's just popped up?
Yeah, go for it.
George is sharing, one sex magic powerful Scorpio woman knew how to pull out my jing without even ejaculating, and I felt wasted afterwards. And what that means, for those that don't know the word jing, is similar to ojas, is our life force energy. And so this use of the word sex magic is more maybe about black magic or manipulation of energy without permission. And when we're saying sex magic, I think all of us here would agree that we're talking about consensual use of sexual energy towards a shared
Definitely.
goal or vision, hopefully in alignment with divine will. I think that's super important. I've learned about intention over the years. If we're just like, oh, I want a new car, let's have sex and manifest it, it can backfire if that car wasn't in alignment with our dharma and with the greatest good of all living beings. So it can be also really beautiful to say if it's in alignment with divine will, and really bring that element in. But when people are trying to steal energy from others, that isn't what we would refer to as sex magic. It would be black magic or manipulation. And yeah, it's good that you realize that that was happening so that you don't go back into that kind of interaction again. Yeah, so I just saw that comment coming up, and I was like, oh, that's a shame that when people misuse energy like that.
I'm going to bring Lori
I'd like
in.
to speak on that too.
Okay, go for it, Lori. You're up.
Okay. When we have guided people in sex magic in the workshops that I've done with Robert Fry, and since then, we are very careful about setting the stage. We're very careful about, if it's two people, getting clear with each other and what can we empower together freely without pressure. And so the comments that you were making was, I thought, so relevant. So I don't think we ever got onto the part of manipulation or that kind of focus, and we really did it from a sacred space. And the things that you're talking about, the manipulation or just going for this one goal, not really communicating, perhaps with oneself or a partner, it's definitely to be avoided.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, it's I've been pretty involved recently in some mediations around, how do I put this? There have been situations where Tantra teachers and sacred sexuality teachers utilized their authority to seduce, and with kind of a hangover effect for the seductee afterwards. And I've actually been pretty involved in some mediation around that for the last few years. It's a thing that's kind of been sweeping through our international community. And it is so important for us to recognize that our sexual energy, it is sacred, and it's a very significant experience to have. And we do get emotionally involved more than we think we might. And so it's, as teachers, all four of us have taught sacred sexuality, we've taught Tantra, and we've all been in a position, I'm sure, where there might be a student or someone where there's an attraction, and learning how to manage that and be respectful about it. I can only imagine how many people have fallen in love with each of you that have been students over the years. And so I just want to, honor how you guys manage that.
I think the key is
Thank
power.
you.
You mentioned the word power. And, when we're mixing power and intimacy, we can easily, manipulation can be the result. And I always think when we're in a position of power, we have responsibility. And as a facilitator, we're not there to get our needs met. We're there to hold safe space for others. And I think it's very important that we get our needs met outside of that dynamic. So I have power as a facilitator, but I also have lots of friendships, relationships, and connections that are not within that power dynamic, which is the appropriate place for me to get my needs met, because I'm still a sexual being and I still love intimacy. But it's super important I'm not using my power to get my needs met. And even with this comment here, there was an older woman wanting to be in control, call the shots. So she wasn't even a facilitator, but she was just an older woman who wanted to use her power to get her needs met. And that's what makes manipulation. And it goes back to Omar Shara bringing this love in, that we need to come from love in our intimacy, not from power. Power can be used
Definitely.
to empower others, as a facilitator, I want to empower others, but that's not the appropriate setting for me to get my needs met. And I think that's super important for people working in our field.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shashi.
So true.
Lori, Trish, anything you want to add?
Well, I'm really in agreement with you, Sashi. Again, about looking to other places to get our needs met and really giving the most for ourselves out to our participants, that are in a respectful way.
Beautiful. Trish, anything you want to add?
I love this piece. And yes, Shashi, for real. Acknowledging power and privilege and recognizing that that's an altered state of consciousness is highly important. I will not participate with any client or any participant in a way, because that thing that makes you go, oh, that person's so cool. That is I don't find that as a place of being aware of, I feel that that's an altered state of consciousness. And I am very, very cautious in those places of someone looking at me like that, because I want to protect them, because oftentimes, especially in a codependent culture, we will be like, oh, that person's so cool and they want to do something with me and I don't need to have boundaries. And then it just gets real messy from there. And that's just one version of this. And so what I often do in my workshops and classes is I name it. So these are the powers and privileges that I do hold. And this is how they historically impact people personally and on a global aspect. And then we talk a lot about the masculine and feminine dynamic, depending on what culture we're in, and masculine and feminine, not in the sense of the spiritual sense, but in the man-woman, the male-female dynamic in this country, the conversation around this and what that means, like social behavior systems and how we're taught to behave. And then I'll talk a little bit about how well do you feel confident in saying yes or no. And we go through body embodiment practices around what it feels like to be in your yes, what it feels like to be in your no, how this looks like, what it feels like to be codependent, what it feels like to be saying yes when you don't really mean it, and in all these ways of being. So lots of conversations around how to build intuition, how to slow it down, what really does a yes feel like, and what does a vibrant sexual expression feel like that's not positioning towards power and privilege, right? And then if someone does come to me, even after all that, I just politely decline lovingly and ask them what they're wanting. And then we have a discussion about wants, needs, and values. And maybe I might wingman. Or find ways to, one of the things that I do really love, like, I love when people connect. Like, I just love the authentic spark of connection. I mean, part of me is like, maybe I should just move in that direction and start like dating events or something, because that just delights me. Does anyone else delight in that? Like people like, you're like, you see the spark across the room and you're like, it's like stuff like that. And I'll answer this question because it's come up twice. What is kink? So historically, kink is the sexual preference outside of the social norm. So what is considered vanilla is sex within a very soft, sensual approach. So that might be missionary or massages or dinners, like something when people think about dating or when they think about sex, they often think about this very specific type. Now, if you're into kink, then you might like something that might look very different. Now, I see sensation as a circular spectrum. I don't see it as like this kind of spectrum anymore. It's sort of like, where is the sensation that you enjoy? And maybe it's soft and very light. Or maybe it's more aggressive. Maybe it's a little bit more like, maybe you like some sensation that's different than the next person. So in my understanding of kink, which has elements of BDSM, bondage, dominance, sadomasochism. Now, I have a very specific belief system around this that I'm not going to get into exactly right now because it would take up the rest of the show. But what I do want to discuss is that there's a way to enjoy the sensations that might not necessarily be something that you think of as loving. Some people like to be spanked, and some people like more extreme expressions of sensation-based play or emotional-based play or sexual-based play, and maybe play with power dynamics. So that is a breath of what I could go into around what is kink. I have so much more.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. And I love how you came alive with that question, because I know that that's something that's important to you and you have a lot of integrity. And of course, all three of you do, Shashi and Lori. Because it's such a dynamic show, content, I am going to ask Omashar to do an extra song. I think it would be good to get up, move, dance, move and groove, because we've been talking about some pretty deep and beautiful stuff here. Omashar, oh my God, you come up with the most amazing backdrops. I mean, you just are the king of backdrops now.
Never understood before. I never knew what love was for. My heart was broke, and my head was sore. What a feeling.
Thank you, Omashar. That was a good way to move our energy a little bit. Let's all twinkle him again. Love Omashar. It's good to see. I love seeing everybody on camera. I love the gallery.
My job description is move the energy.
And look at that jacket you're wearing. I mean, you've got the colors and the backdrop and the jacket.
I got the look.
You got the look. You're lighting it all up, bro.
Yay, I'm glad. Thank you.
All right. Well, here's the next thing that I'd love to, let's all share a little bit about kind of a unique, somebody asked about kink. And as a coach, having coached a lot of people, sexuality really varies. What some people find sexy, other people might think is gross. What's pornography to one person is beautiful and a turn on to another. And there's a lot of different forms of sexual connection. And thank goodness we're living in a culture now, there's more and more openness to that. And one of the forms of sexuality that is very new is eco-sexuality. And I have some friends that take people out into nature where we just really feel the connection to the plants, to the trees, to how sensual nature is. So that's one form of unique sexuality. And I'm going to bring on Shashi and Trish and Lori to see if they share a unique form of sensuality or sexuality. Shashi?
I'd love to talk more about that. I just taught a class this morning with 30 women here in the jungle. And so I'm like totally lit up when I'm like, yeah, ecosexuality. I actually think all sexuality is, even if we're not aware of it, because in Tantra and Tao, like we learned that sexual energy comes from the earth. It pushes up out of the earth and it wants to rise up to consciousness. That's its journey. Then the more we realize that, the more we realize, wow, if I get into nature, I'm going to get more sexy. I'm going to get more energy. And we get activated. Different flavors of our sexuality get activated by different places in nature. There's like fiery volcanic places and deep sensual watery places and getting naked in mud and like so many ways to activate our sexual flavors. What I did with the women today was just have us lie on the floor and start pressing into the floor and moving our bodies against the floor, and it's like, this sexual energy just pushes up into our bodies. It's like, we don't need to fake it. We don't need to try and act out sexuality. It's right there in nature. And when we get our bodies close to nature, it's like that earth eroticism comes up and through us. So yeah, as soon as you mentioned that, I'm like, wow, that was my class today. I've lived in the jungle 20 years for a good reason. There's nothing more sexy than nature.
And I did not know that you were taught that class today. And it's funny, during almost our song, you came in and said, oh, I should bring up ecosexuality. So I don't know, I must have been tapped in.
Amazing.
Trish, is there anything you'd like to add?
I'd like to add that if you didn't see the show, you should go back and watch the one we did with Annie Sprinkle, who is lit on ecosexuality. Like, that was such a sweet show, and I love her so much. I mean,
I'll find the link and I'll pop it in the chat box while you're chatting.
Who doesn't feel some sort of like, if it's like warm mud and you're like, I mean, who hasn't a mud bath or sat at the beach when you like enjoy how the sand gets between your toes or the grass? Oh God, yes. Oh, so good. Or when like that favorite scent that you have that wafts through and you're like, oh, or the sound of the trees when they're like together in the wind. Oh. I'm sorry, what was the question, Scott? You asked.
Well, I love how turned on you and Shashi are getting us all, and it's beautiful. It's really fun.
Did you know? Embodied.
Let's go to practical ways people can experience more sacredness in their sexuality. So let's tackle that one. Shashi, what do you want to lead with?
Well, now I want to say just go into nature and commune with it. But I think there's so many ways, and like I shared about sacredness. Like sometimes some people's sacred is uncomfortable for other people. So for example, ritual, for some people it's so beautiful to light candles and mantras. Other people just feel really uptight and awkward and like, what's going on? So I think it's really important that each of us find our own space, like what is my space that makes me feel more open? And then also when you're with another person, what's our space that gives us a deeper experience? And so then we can explore different, it could be different rituals, different settings, or like we just shared, going into nature together, maybe going and getting naked in the mud is our way to feel the sacredness of our animal bodies and our sexuality, and to clear away all the conditioning and guilt and shame, and just be like, wow, here it is in its innocence and purity. And then for other people, it's like, let's light candles, and different, could be any image of divinity. It doesn't have to be like classical tantric, you know, like what's divine for you, and how is it to be naked, to make love, to move energy in front of something that feels divine? Can we heal that shame and gap and bring it all, you know, into the light of divinity? So yeah, I think for each person and each couple, you can find the perfect way for you.
Beautiful. Trish?
Again, to behave as such that all life is sacred. Like to actually choose that, to slow it down and to kind of hack your own sort of human mentality. I mean, if you're socialized in this country or have any of that still left, to really like to sit still sometimes and to feel what really turns you on, what your delight is, what is here's an example. I love working with Ashley because she's hilarious, and she also has these really fun things that she does. So we're looking for venues, and she's like, that does not turn me on. I'm like, good point. She's like, I want to be in a place that turns me on. Not in a place that's like financially logical, but some place that I'm like, yes. And I was like, all right, you know, and find those places in your life. You know, I mean, if you're doing a bunch of stuff that you literally loathe all day, every day, finding the place, it doesn't matter where it is, whether it's sexual or not, but finding that place and kind of enjoying it a little bit more, pushing that button a little bit, like, ooh, yeah, that one, like that, to really enjoy it. And to treat yourself like you're sacred. To actually, like when you have the, you know, the thing that it'd be like, hey, this is sacred. All of me, even the things that don't fit into the social structure, the conformity, or the things that I'm supposed to do, like, or the things that still hurt, like that's sacred too. And to treat it as such, to hold it that way, be gentle with it, and to tell you that you love it and that it's divine, and to be like, oh, that practical.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to go to you in a moment, Lori. Let's talk about sexual fantasies for a moment. Because again, as a coach, I found that making it safe when I'm working with couples for them to be able to express what they fantasize about can be very challenging. It can bring up a lot of stuff. But if people drop into a place of acceptance and compassionate understanding and listening, and not taking somebody else's fantasy personally or judging it, it can actually bring couples even more closely together when they share their fantasies with each other, recognizing that some fantasies are absolutely best kept in the fantasy realm, and other fantasies are actually things that might be appropriate to act out. So, and I remember a long time ago, Lori hosted an amazing retreat at her place in Maui, where it was a sexual fantasy theater workshop. So, Lori, is there anything you'd like to say about that?
I think, I think I have a memory that we did these fantasies and then we filmed them. And we filmed them in a half-hour filming, and people got to sort of live out their creative expression. And at that time, women some women explored what it was like to be a dominant, and that was new for them. And then there's another couple who experienced total lovemaking in nature and did it together. And, you know, it has to be something that both people cooperate about and agree with. And it can also be done just by oneself as well, with self-massage and just loving all of the different parts of the body and communicating with God and spirit through prayer.
Hmm.
So all of those things are very possible. And sexual fantasy, if done safely in a good way, permits us to explore new parts of ourselves. Like in that workshop, I remember a small group of people going through an enactment of having a group marriage in front of a priest, and another two people pretended to act out a situation where they were teenagers getting ready to make love, and they were discovered by parents, and this time the parents were so supportive as opposed to critical. So just different kinds of fantasies bring out different parts of themselves.
Yeah, it was very beautiful. It was a very, very beautiful workshop.
I can't remember what your fantasy was. Do you?
God, I don't even remember what mine was either. I remember being more there as a facilitator.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. So I remember much more about facilitating, and I remember helping Kutira. She wanted to reenact losing her virginity, and having it be in a romantic and beautiful way. So I remember that one very clearly. It was very lovely. All right, Trish or Shashi, anything you want to share about sexual fantasies?
Yeah, there's something that I found really powerful to do with there's a practice which is about speaking them and then going into the energy that's moving behind them. So it's just a particular meditation technique that it's great for those ones that you know you don't want to act out, but they exist, and so you want to liberate that energy. So with those ones, then I have the couples like share them, or it can even be done in one-on-one therapy as well. I worked with sex offenders for a while, and one of the things that I was doing was helping them to liberate darker energy, and I did that through fantasy. But it can also be used with just ordinary people, with the ones they don't want to act out. And there you speak through the fantasy, which of course takes a lot of courage, and then start naming the sensations in the body and then sounding, and then the energy starts to move, because the energy itself is incredibly innocent and it's just trying to liberate itself. And it often is like this fantasy or that fantasy will liberate. And the ones that are consensual and fun and safe to play out, it's an amazing way to liberate the energy. And for the other ones, we can do it without acting it out by speaking it and then going into energy release practices. And this is phenomenal. I have seen people who are, like I said, are sex offenders, heal and transform their sexuality into something much more healthy and less harmful through using this technique. So I like to teach this one as well for people, for the places where they don't know how else to work with that piece of their sexuality.
Oh, thank you, Shashi. Thank you very much. Trish, what would you like to share on this topic?
I love sexual fantasies. That's what I would like to say. This is like my bread and butter, literally, figuratively. Sexual fantasies are fun. And, you know, Shashi, thank you for saying that it is often just based in play. It's usually generally pretty innocent, in even if it's wildly kinky or rooted in something that's like, it's really an innocent expression of like, I'm just like desiring this. And, you know, after years of playing in the kink scene, kind of actually like having my judgy moments for a long time of being like, why would someone want that? But to actually step back and not psychoanalyze them, but to really be like, that person is just seeking to meet a need, Scott. They're seeking to meet a need or a value or an expression, and however it implanted in their brain is coming out this way. So how they worked it out. I've met people who have some like extreme Catholic school kinks and liked to have their hands like slapped. And I was like, interesting way to approach that. Or there's a lot of good girl, good boy, bad boy sort of stuff in the world. And I often wonder, like I ask people, the people I'm playing with or my clients who are like, there's something about my sexuality that is inauthentic the way that I'm expressing it. And that's the cool thing about sexual fantasy, is that not only do you get to express it in some way, but if you have a partner that has an open-minded sexual expression or an open-minded heart, that maybe you can talk about them or even experience them in containers of safe, sane, and consensual play. And that's one of the things that I do love to teach, is how to help people get there. In fact, when I fly to Fort Lauderdale, this is one of the things that I'm working with a couple. He's really kinky and she isn't really, and he tops from the bottom, which means that he tells her everything to do to be dominant. And then she's like, there's no room for me in here. And that's the thing that I get to help with, is that I get to tell them and show them how to like find her inner dominance or in her like, and to help him surrender his agenda and to find a way that they can negotiate play that feels right and safe for them.
Beautiful. They're fortunate to have you. We have our last question for the day, and it comes from Dorina in Ecuador. And it's a wonderful question. Thank you, Dorina, for asking this. She asks, about the all sex is sacred point, there is a darker side of sex and sexuality. Despite the desire for seeing from a higher perspective, I have the hardest time to include the extreme expressions of sex that might include minors, children, animals, even inanimate objects like sex dolls, into the realm of sacredness. Where does one put the borderline in acceptance, understanding, and total negation? That's a complex question. And I definitely look forward to hearing what everybody has to say. Shashi, do you want to respond first?
Sure, it's a great question, and I have questioned that myself just in life. Like, if everything's sacred, like even beyond sex, if everything's sacred, what do we do about people who are like murdering people? Do we call that sacred? So there's like, if everything's God, how is somebody murdering someone? Is that God? You know, this is a very deep philosophical question. And I feel that through exploring Tao and Tantra, and also psychotherapy, that the answer that seems to come up the clearest is that there's an innocence to life force energy. And when it becomes split off from the light of consciousness, i.e. like presence, that's when it starts to become something that is this darker version. This split is what causes the harm. And so when we're growing up and we're shamed about something, if we don't heal that, we can push that thing, maybe it's just self-pleasure, and then we push it in the basement and we cut it off from our love and our consciousness. And like anything else in a basement, that's where the cockroaches are, that's where things rot and go moldy. And something that started innocent, just the desire to touch our bodies, can start becoming rotten. And if we don't bring it back with our heart and our consciousness, we may try and find an outlet for that energy that we keep in the shadowlands, like things like flashing or, you know, rape. All the dark side of sexuality and life that we see is usually showing that where that cutoff is. And that's why I worked with sex offenders for a long time. I really wanted to see how to work with the darker side of sexuality. I started working with women that were raped, ended up working with men that were raping. and discovering that there was always trauma, there was always shaming around their sexuality. And of course, if we re-shame them, if we're like, oh, lock this person up, they come out of prison even worse because they got even more shame and they've still got this energy down here in the sex. So I think a lot of healing is very, very important to gradually bring pieces out of the shadows and bring them into the light. Like Trisha's talking about, like create those safe spaces where people can say, okay, I've got this kink, I've got this desire. Oh wow, it's okay, it's, I can express it, and then we're being seen, there's a conscious field, and we start to heal, or even we're receiving love while we're expressing those things that have been ashamed. And when we bring them back with love and consciousness, they stop being this weird, dark, harmful thing, and they start to integrate. Integration is key. Integration is healing. And you know, that's what we're doing with Tantra, is helping people to bring shadows back to the light.
Sasha, I really love your answer. That was beautiful. And I feel like it captured, because I'm actually going to bring another question that just came in. But I want to add, I have also coached people that have been on both sides of rape. I've coached pedophiles, and you're right, it's always trauma is at the root. And it's so important for us as coaches to not judge. Obviously, we don't condone any action that's had hurtful consequences. But it's so important for us to just compassionately seek to understand, why do you have that kink? Why do you have that desire? Why do you have that? And I guess I'd just add that for any of us, the line is, when are we in compulsion? When is there that part of us that knows this actually could be hurtful to myself or to another? And yet there's some other part of me driving me to do it, despite knowing on some level this isn't the right thing to do. And so learning to work with our compulsion, again with compassion, because the compulsion is coming, it's usually coming from the basement, using your analogy. And so, anyway, this is a whole show we should do, all about managing compulsion. It's a show. There's another topic, and I want to give you and Lori and Trish a chance to tackle this. So I'm going to bring you all on camera. So I'm bringing Lori and Trish and Shashi on. And it's a tender question. It's from Dia. And she writes, could somebody address herpes, yeast, and topics like that? Thank you, because it is important for us to talk about those things. And she said, it seems like nobody else has to deal with those things. So, Lori, would you like to start first with sharing something about, just managing sexually transmitted diseases and our health? Because I know you teach health, and that's a big part of your teaching.
Mhm. Yes, I can. Herpes is an important thing. It's important to have an STD conversation with a partner where you can ask about herpes, chlamydia, gonorrhea, HIV, a variety of different things, and to hopefully get honest answers. I remember when first things came out with herpes and then with HIV, people needed to show records of their testing. Something that I think is also very important is HPV. And human papillomavirus is responsible for creating 70% of prostate cancers, and also can create cancers in the neck and throat. And I just today was digging through my tests where males can test for HPV with their urine. And I actually want to run to another room and pick up the test kit, because I didn't happen to use it. But when HPV is so communicable, and when it can create cervical cancer in women and prostate cancer in men, we want to know about these things early on. And what the general then is, you can't test for HPV in men, and that's actually incorrect. So I'm glad that we have these these opportunities. There's also other things which are more rare, like syphilis, and I think I mentioned chlamydia. That's not so rare. But yes, we need to be proactive about our health, and also by asking for testing. And one of the things that happened with men pleasuring women was, I mean, they didn't ask, what is your latest pap test? How did you rate on that? And there's been a spike in male cancers in the neck from orally pleasuring women where they didn't ask the right questions.
Wow.
And that's a current spike in in cancers in the neck and throat in men.
Wow. I didn't know that one. That's
Well, I
fascinating.
think if you don't mind, I'm going to run and show the test kit on the
Okay.
okay, because I feel
Yeah, yeah.
very-
Yes, yes, show the test kit.
all right. I'm going to get it.
I'm going
And I
to
can
go to
totally see you guys.
Trish, to you and Shashi, have anything you want to add while we wait for the test kit to arrive?
This is also a big part of my practice, but if you want to take it.
I mean, it's totally agreed. Like it's a very important conversation to have, and in the tantra world and the conscious sexuality world, there's a kind of elevator pitch that kind of goes around that people share, which is not just about test results and diseases, but also what does this interaction mean to you? I think it's also important. Is there anyone who'll be affected by it? It used to be like, are you married? But these days it's not the question. It's like, is there anyone that will be affected if we're intimate together? You know, maybe you made love with someone last night, or you know, or you're going through a breakup. So questions like this, it's so important. And I believe it sounds like Laurie's really into this, of like keeping in the mood, but being able to have these very important conversations where we can share also what kind of aftercare do you want? Do you expect a phone call afterwards? So we include this whole package of sexual health care, what it means to you. Are you looking for your next long-term relationship, or is this just for one night? All of these kind of questions help us to have this kind of safety that actually we can surrender much more and have much more pleasure. If we've got in the back of our head, oh my God, maybe they've got this disease or that, or maybe they've got a partner, we actually don't surrender deeply. So it is sexy to have really epic conversation, and like Laurie said, do it in a way that keeps the mood, and that's, you know, like, this is exciting, we're going on a journey together, let's talk about these things, so that we can do it in a way that we can surrender fully.
You know, thank you for bringing that up. And I just want to add, one of the things I coach people is any step along the path of dating, before you take that step, discuss, what does that step mean to you, right? Like, what is, even if it's just, what's our first date? What's it mean to you? What are you looking for? And you know, those conversations at first can be awkward. And, you know, if we're more shy, we may have a tendency to want to avoid it, but it creates greater intimacy.
Absolutely.
And emotional intimacy is the great aphrodisiac, you know, and the more emotional intimacy, intimacy, the more that our hearts open, and the more we actually feel safe to maybe take that next step in the exploration of a relationship. So
Totally agree. It can be an aphrodisiac to be vulnerable and to say, oh, I'm actually really longing for a partner in life, or to be vulnerable and say, I just want to have pleasure, just for tonight. Like to expose our deeper longings is so sexy and so intimate and so connecting and bonding. I totally resonate with what you share there.
beautiful. You know, I promised to let you go at 7:30, so I am going to show people a little bit about what you're up to. And if you want more Shashi, she's doing a lot of really cool things. Tell us about this masterclass that you're actually supporting, Shashi.
The next thing I'm doing is like, well, similar to this, I also do live things online, and there it is, a free masterclass. We are about to launch a tantric massage training for couples, or for any two people who want to do it together in person. And this Sunday, I'm chatting with Maria Sky here, you can see her, about surrender. So how, like we have busy lives and our heads are full of thoughts and, kind of like we were just sharing, Scott, about like how to open up to intimacy. So we're going to be really sharing about how to really support each other into the beautiful feeling of surrender so that we can enjoy more pleasure and get out of our heads into our bodies and enjoy the experience without something, going on in our head. So we're going to be giving really practical ways of like touching and holding that help the nervous system to relax and help the body to melt open. So yeah, tantric massage is the theme for our month this month.
Mhm. And people can really get a lot of all the things that you're involved in at livetantra.com. Livetantra.com. There's the website. Tantra you can trust. I like that. So everybody make sure you put in, your name and your email address. And what's the free book that you give, Shashi?
Is on tantric meditation, because a lot of people just think of tantra as having sex and sexual stuff, and which is a big part of it, but I really wanted to share what tantric meditation is, like I shared at the beginning about eating a strawberry or using everyday experiences as a meditation, as a portal into remembering who we are, our divine nature. So I made a book. Actually, it was part of my book that I wrote for Hay House, but I had to limit the number of words. So I took that whole section and turned it into an ebook that I just offer there on that platform. So we've got tons of free material. And like I said, like you read out, it's Tantra you can trust. We really curate. We bring in very qualified teachers who haven't violated boundaries with their students, teachers who've trained properly with great teachers in lineages. So we really curate the best of the world of Tantra for people.
And there's a lot. I mean, it's a very elaborate website with a lot of videos and information, master classes, online courses. I mean, you've really done a great job. And I do know some of the people that teach with you, and I have a lot of respect for them and a lot of respect for you, Shashi. What a wonderful presenter you are. It's really great having you on the show.
Likewise, it's so beautiful to be part of your beautiful world here.
Mm.
And also to Trish, I feel so much resonance while we're sharing. And it's been wonderful to meet Laurie here tonight and feel a lot of connection.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Shashi.
Yeah, I do have to go because I'm teaching 10 hours a day and it's getting late here. So I'm
I
gonna
know. Thank you so much, Shashi. We'll see you soon.
love you all. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you everyone for showing up and being here.
Things rest well.
So I just did the research on my test kit. And if you want to know, this is it, called iDNA. I don't know if you can see it.
It's hard to see it.
All right. Well, it's called iDNA, which means I do not need answers.
If you hold it back towards your face, Laurie, we can see it.
Okay.
There we go. And how do people order it?
You can order it online. I just went and double checked it.
Okay.
And it's a series of blood and urine tests in one box like this.
Great.
A little hard to see, but anyway, but I did write down the things that can test for primarily: HPV, HIV, hepatitis C, trichomonas, syphilis, herpes 1, herpes 2, urea plasma. I don't know what that one is. And then there was one or two others. I was rushing to get back to you guys, but being that the popular conviction is you can't test HPV in a man, I think it's good that I pulled this out and know this again. And I know someone who's had active unprotected sex with a man with prostate cancer.
Mm.
And, there are actually quite a few women who have sex with men with prostate cancer, even older men with smaller ones that they, because apparently you mostly don't die of it, but you still, if you have HPV, you can easily communicate HPV, and it would be the cancerous type to a woman, and it can be in her cervix then. and be a risk for her. So I think testing is actually extremely important.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Oh,
That's
good. Glad you feel
Sure.
that way. Thank you.
absolutely. And a
So
reminder,
IDNA, which is
IDNA.
felt in the gay community, actually.
Beautiful. And a reminder that Lori and I will be teaching this Friday night, May 5th, and then again on Thursday night, May 11th, at the Sunrise Center, located at 645 Tamalpais Drive, that's in Corte Madera. And if you want more information about it, just reach out to me. You can send me a message and I will definitely give you more details. Also, Trish has the Self-Love Show. And I noticed that your guest tomorrow is somebody who was at our Global Peace Tribe retreat. So tell us a little bit about the Self-Love Show and tomorrow's show with Yuri.
Yeah. This one's going to be fabulous. Yuri was really sweet. I really loved how she brought a lot of tools and wove them in for a profound experience of shifting away the relational childhood dynamics that might keep you stuck. So I'm really excited to bring her on and see what she's there, what she has to offer. And I know some of you were there. Some of you were there, didn't you? Like, can you raise your hand how powerful that was for you? Yeah, it was like, wow. Everybody was like, whoa. The Self-Love Show is a really amazing show. It's a free resource for you and your family and for anybody else that you know to get tools and coaching and therapy right there. It's easy, it's free, it's meant for you. And we scour the world for people who will bring things and tools for you to actually just build better self-love and better relationships, because that is inevitably we all live together, right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. And are you available for coaching? Is that something we want to let people know about?
I am available for coaching. Yes, currently.
What's the best way for people to reach you?
You can reach out to me via my email address, trish@trishwrightglobal.com. You can probably ping me on Instagram, but I'm going to move you into my email box pretty quickly, just to keep it straight. There's a lot of things that come in through like social media. That's a really difficult place for me to actually keep connected. Just because it's crazy in there. I know maybe you don't know. I get like marriage proposals.
I don't get marriage proposals.
I get marriage proposals, maybe like random marriage proposals every like 2 a month from just some random person, or maybe it's one of those pics that are non-consensual, or God knows what it could be. There's a lot of things that come in and I'm like, how did you make it through the filter? But anyway, reach out via email. You can find me on all of those places.
Okay.
And we can connect.
Great. And before we close out with an Om Shar song, I got a couple of announcements. For those of you who watched our show last Saturday night, something very spontaneous happened. There was this woman named Kalina who was there, and she did a spontaneous psychic healing for our friend John Martin. And we love John Martin. Trish, I know you love John Martin. And John reported to me that it really made a difference for him. He's been dealing with pretty serious health issues. So tomorrow we have a special Global Peace Tribe event. Kalina is going to be offering psychic healing for a few of us. It's going to be Thursday afternoon, 1:30 Pacific time. I put the details into our chat box. So, and even if you're not chosen for her to personally work with, she does group healing as well. And she's powerful and a wonderful new friend in our Global Peace Tribe world. And tomorrow is a collaboration with Tangela and Soul Search. And I'll be there hosting. So join us tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. And then just want to briefly tell you about the shows that we've got coming up this weekend. On Saturday night, it's all about angels. And we've got a really wonderful group of people joining us. We've got people that channel the angels, that connect to angels, that sing like angels. We've even got Mandolin Reese, my dear friend, who is the street angel. She goes to stadiums carrying signs, asking people to be kind. So it's gonna be a really lovely show. And we've got some great music, of course, Omar Shar. And then do you all remember Vox Angelis? She's been on the show a few times now. She channels the Elohim, and there's this combination of singing and chanting that really is powerful, raises a high vibration. And then we've got a great duo, Four Fader. They're a great duo that will be playing music. So that's our Sunday show. And then, as I mentioned once before that's our Saturday night show. A lot of shows going on. Then our Sunday show is going to be introducing you to people from all over the world, next generation of multicultural leaders. And I'm really excited about this show and really giving voice to people that we don't normally get a chance to listen to and hear from. That's a very Trish Wright kind of a show, I might say. So there you have it. That's what we've got coming up. I want to thank you, Lori, for being on the show. Hopefully those of you in the Bay Area will be able to join Lori and I this Friday night or next Thursday night or both. And you can learn more about Lori by going to the Sunrise Center. That's her organization. And you can learn all about the Sunrise Center by going to sunrisecenter.org. Sunrisecenter.org is where all things Lori Grace take place. And thank you for being with us, Lori.
And Scott Thomas.
Yeah, I'm beginning to do things there again now as well, which is kind of fun. So thank you. Dorina is reminding everybody, and this is important, thank you. Sometimes our Awakening World emails might end up in your spam folder. So make sure that you safe list or whitelist our email address or just Global Peace Tribe so that you are getting our emails. Some come through Global Peace Tribe, some come through Love Coach Scott Thomas at Gmail. But we definitely want to make sure you're getting all the wonderful emails that we send with replays and information. And now is that time. We always begin and end with Omar Shar and our love bunny. Hey, bro.
I did it my way. Hey, Mary's asking how we access tomorrow afternoon. I know you've already sent out an email with the Zoom link in it, but maybe you could readdress it here.
It is. I put it in the chat box a few minutes ago, but I'll put it there again. So here is the Zoom room. And also, if you want to get a little taste of Kalina, there's a video you can watch on Instagram. And that's at 1:30 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, Pacific time, 1:30 Pacific time.
Yeah, she's a powerful healer.
And you're a powerful musical artist.
There we are. Just the two of us. And okay, let's do it. Let's feel the love, shall we? Here we go, feeling it.
I love it.
Me too.
Let's all get up and move and groove and dance. I know Joy's getting ready. I can see Atira and Bobby beginning to move. We can always count on Reverend Jeffrey to start moving to the music. So let's get up and dance, everybody.
Got a new feeling here in my heart. It's been a long time coming. It tore me apart. I looked into your eyes. You love me a lot. You were the one who helped me change my thoughts. So we are singing. Feel the love, feel the love come tumbling down. Feel the love, and let it turn you around. We're singing. Feel the love come tumbling down. Feel the love, and let it turn you around. You looked into my eyes, you spoke only truth. I found I couldn't live with myself. myself until I open to you, open to you. So now I'm doing the right thing, just doing the right thing. It's the only way I know, and I'm not ashamed of myself. I'm just going with the flow, going with the flow and singing. I feel the love, I feel the love come tumbling down. I feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. We're singing. I feel the love, I feel the love come tumbling down. I feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. And now about this new feeling here in my heart, I won't let it leave me, I won't let us pass. I waited a long time for you to enter my life, and now I'm with you forever, I'm with you forever. Here's our best. I feel the love, I feel the love come tumbling down. I feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. We're singing. I feel the love, I feel the love come tumbling down. I feel the love, and let it turn you around, turn you around. We're singing. Turn you around, turn you around, and let it turn you around, turn you around, and let it turn you around, turn you around, and we can be happy.
Oh, Omar Shah, you outdid yourself this time. 3 fabulous songs with the best backgrounds, super colorful, super upbeat. You are the best, brother. We love you.
Yeah, you know what you said the other day about how you're competitive, and we vie for letting people in the rooms quickly. I realize I'm competitive with myself, and so every show has to be better than the last. So thank you for recognizing.
You're gonna have a tough
that.
time. Well, I'm going to see how can you possibly top this weekend. So
Easily.
easily.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Omar Shah. And thank you, everybody, for being with us. Trish, my wonderful co-host. This is really, really fun. Thank you. And see everybody tomorrow afternoon with Kalina, Saturday night with all the angels joining us. And tomorrow morning, self-love show. So start with the self-love show tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Pacific time. Take a couple of hours, have a nice breakfast, go for a walk, and then come back for Kalina at 1:30. And I'm going to go to gallery view one last time. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Much love to you all.